Provos, Order of St. Augustine, former prefect of the dicastery for bishops until today. Born September 14th, 55, 69 years old. Pretty good as far as age. Not too young, not too old. That's good. Born in Chicago, Illinois, U.S. So that's going to be your first North American pope. That's big. Was made a cardinal in 2023 by Pope Francis. So relatively new. September 30th, 2023, made a cardinal. Cardinal bishop. So high status in the Roman Curia. Of course, as prefect, you'd kind of anticipate that, right? Cardinal Robert Francis Provos, now Leo XIV, former prefect of the influential dicastery for bishops, is a Chicago-born prelate with views close to Pope Francis, who spent many years as a missionary in Peru before being elected head of the Augustinians for 2 consecutive terms. And by the way, thank you for that super chat here. Miss Thang, that's a great name, says, I prayed my keister off, devastating God. We got the Pope we deserved and not the one we wanted. Jesus, I trust in you. God bless you all. Thank you so much for the comment there. I appreciate you. I think there was another super chat or super sticker. Thomas Theology and Philosophy Podcast. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. Okay, so let's resume here. Born September 14th in Chicago in 1955, entered the novitiate of the Order of St. Augustine in 77, made his vows in 81. Educational background is a Bachelor of Science in Math, a Master of Divinity from Catholic Theological Union in Chicago, and a Licentiate and Doctorate in Canon Law from the Pontifical College of Aquinas in Rome, Angelicum. His doctoral thesis was on the role of the local prior in the Order of St. Augustine. That's interesting. Huh. I wonder why he chose that. Well, he became, over the Order of St. Augustine. I get that, and he was Augustinian, but the role of the local prior, I wonder why. His career in the church has been marked by significant roles and achievements. After his ordination as priest in 82, Provos joined the Angelicum mission in Peru in 85, served as chancellor there from 85 to 86, spent from 87 to 88 in the USA as pastor for vocations and director of missions for the Augustinian province of Chicago before returning to Peru, where he spent the next 10 years heading the Augustinian seminary and teaching canon law in the diocesan seminary. He was also prefect of studies. He served in other capacities there, as well as parish pastor, diocesan official, director of formation, seminary teacher. 99, he returned to Chicago, elected provincial prior of the Mother of Good Counsel province in the Archdiocese. 2.5 years later, elected prior general of the Augustinian and served 2 years until 2013. In 2014, returned to Peru when Pope Francis appointed him apostolic administrator of the Diocese of Chiclayo. He was elevated to bishop in Chiclayo in 2015. So while there, he also served as vice president and member of the permanent council of the Peruvian Bishops' Conference, and from 2018 to 2023. So vice pres of an Episcopal conference, that definitely gives him some experience. So he's got experience as a pastor. He's got experience as a bishop. He's got experience as vice president of an Episcopal conference. That's pretty prominent. But of course, then prefect for a Roman dicastery, that's going to be the most important experience, most likely. During that time, Peru's bishops reportedly played an important role in ensuring institutional stability. In 2023-2021, Provos served as apostolic administrator in Peru. Francis appointed him prefect of the dicastery for bishops in January 2023, which already Strickland and LifeSite News are not happy about because it is under Provos and his dicastery that Strickland was removed from ministry. It's also under Provos and Fernandez, both in unison, that Vigano was confirmed to be excommunicated. A powerful position responsible for selecting bishops, a position he held until Pope Francis died, April 21st, 2025. On September 30th, 2023, Pope Francis elevated Provos to the rank of cardinal. So he's only been a cardinal for not even 2 years. I mean, gosh, yeah, not even a full 2 years. Pretty new to the College of Cardinals. Wow, that's pretty amazing. During his first months as prefect, He continued to remain characteristically discreet in the media, which might be a good thing. After the last pontificate, that was constantly in controversies in the media, whether it was his fault or not, or a combination of both. The previous pontificate was constantly in controversy in the media, in one way or another. This might be good to at least get away from that. There might be some other concerns, though. But was reportedly appreciated for his ability to listen and his mastery of issues. Alitia reported that a French bishop who met him 2 months after he took office praised his judicious questions and his ability to synthesize, stressing that his first contact had led him with a good impression. Key topics: Provos says little, but some of his positions are known. He's reportedly very close to Francis's vision regarding the environment. So you might see an emphasis on ecology like Pope Francis had. Outreach for the poor and migrants. So you might again see some opposition to Trump and the United States immigrations policy. And meeting people where they are. So you might see kind of outreach and stuff like that to people who are the church has described as marginalized, right? He said last year the bishop is not supposed to be a little prince sitting in his kingdom. He supported Pope Francis's change in pastoral practice to allow divorced and civilly remarried Catholics to receive Holy Communion, so evidently he was in favor of Mors Laetitia. Provos appears somewhat less favorable to currying favor with the LGBTQ lobby than Francis, but he showed mild support for Fiducia Supplicans. Let's actually take a look at that, because I don't recall. Let's see. And let's see what their source is on that. He emphasized the need for National Bishops' Conference to have a doctrinal authority to interpret and apply such directives in their local context, given cultural differences. I mean, yeah, that's pretty standard run-of-the-mill position on fiducia, right? We'll need to look a little bit more into that. Provos has faced some controversy regarding clergy sexual abuse, although he has been defended in both cases. So there's been some controversy in how he's handled some cases, but he's been defended. So we'll need to look into that in more detail as well. The Cardinal supporter stresses innocence and say that the cases have been inaccurately and unfairly reported in the media. So we'll need to give them benefit of the doubt, and reserve judgment until we find out more. First case involves his handling of a sexual abuse case during his time as provincial, when a priest convicted of sexual abuse of minors was allowed to stay at an Augustinian priory near an elementary school and continued functions as a priest until later removed and then laicized in 2012. However, Provos is said to have never authorized that particular situation. The priest was not an Augustinian, and it took place before the Dallas Charter. More recently, questions were raised about Provos' knowledge and handling of abuse allegations in his former diocese of Chiclayo. The priests were accused of molesting 3 young girls, with the allegation surfacing in 2012 during Provos' tenure as bishop. The case has been a source of frustration for local Catholics due to its slow progress and unclear resolution. Some accusers have claimed Provos failed to properly investigate the allegations and covered up for the accused priest, but the diocese has firmly denied this, stating that Provos followed proper procedures. They stated that Provos personally received and attended to the victims, and he reportedly opened an initial canonical investigation. He also encouraged the victims to take care to the civil authorities, to take the case to the civil authorities. In July 2022, Provos sent the results of the investigation to the DDF for review. His supporters stressed that he has documents from the DDF and papal nunciature in Peru, which also indicate that he was not only attentive to the presumed victims, but he did all that was required in church law and following procedures set out for the case. However, in May 2025, allegations emerged that the diocese paid $150,000 to the 3 girls to silence them. Described as longtime public critics of Provos, the girls reportedly blame Provos for covering up their sexual abuse by the priest. I suspect this is going to be a huge thing that's brought up in the media and is going to be discussed ad nauseum, right? So you can expect a whole lot of conversations about this. So we'll find out more. The allegations reported in Info Vaticana describe the Peruvian scandal, which was the subject of a national television report, including an interview with the girls last fall as the stone in the shoe for the Cardinal Provos. Ahead of the 2025 conclave, Provos was being promoted as a possible compromise candidate if leading candidates were unable to attain enough votes, which appears to be the case, right? His lengthy missionary service in Peru allowed him to be seen as more of a universal candidate than American, which mitigated problems associated with choosing a pope from a superpower in his case. However, there was speculation that he might be considered too young and too recently made a cardinal to be seriously considered papabile with any significant chance of being elected. Well, that proved to be false. Continued questions over his handling of sexual abuse have also cast a cloud over his prospects. Provos is a member of the 7 Vatican dicasteries, as well as the Commission of Governance of Vatican City State, indicating how much Pope Francis trusted the cardinal and valued his administrative ability. So, highly trusted by Pope Francis. I think we do have some more stuff here before I continue. Thank you so much for this super chat. I wonder how many trads would cringe at Pope Leo XIII's social doctrine if he were alive today. Been seeing a lot of negative reactions to Leo XIV. Yeah, I mean, I can point out stuff like that till the cows come home, right? And not just in most recent history, but in the first millennium. Duchess of Dub, thank you for that super sticker. We feel blessed, as the Pope said, the blessing, holding our crucifixes as we took that blessing to be in our home. God is great. Thank you. Melarama says, beyond unexpected. Wow. I appreciate the super sticker. Teresa, anyone else find it kind of weird when a Pope thanks his brother cardinals for electing him as if he's a politician? Just a side note. We'll need to go back and look at what he said there again. It's kind of hard to follow everything while all of the stuff is going on. Some of the rad trads are freaking out. Yeah, I've been seeing that, right? So, we're going to look at that here in a moment. We're going to look at progressive reactions, rad trad reactions, everything in between. We're going to look at reactions here in a moment. Hang tight. Okay, ordaining female deacons. It appears he is opposed to that. During the Synod on Synodality in October 2023, Provost stated that clericalizing women, that is, ordaining them to clerical roles, would not solve the church's problem and might even create new ones. Blessing same-sex couples, so fiducia supplicans kind of seems neutral on it, although he expressed reservations about sympathy for beliefs and practices that contradict the gospel. Provost showed less clarity about fiducia supplicans, stressing the need for national bishops' conferences to have doctrinal authority to interpret and apply such directives in their local context, which means he would be pro more of a synodal model for the church, right? Making priestly celibacy optional in the Latin rite is unclear. Restricting the Latin Mass is unclear for him. Vatican-China deal, unclear. Promoting a synodal church, he's in favor of synodality. Provos is a strong supporter of synodality, so you can see some continuity there with Pope Francis. He's been described as a vocal proponent of Pope Francis's emphasis on making vocal proponent of Pope Francis's emphasis on making the church's structures more inclusive and participatory. Seeing synodality as a way to address polarization with the church, he connects synodality with the need for consultation and lay involvement. And that will continue in 2028 when the Synod on Synodality is evaluated. Pope Francis had plans for it to be evaluated in 2028. He's going to be the one heading that up now, and he's in favor of it. So, focusing on climate change in favor, so you can expect kind of an ecology-oriented pontificate, it would seem, much like Pope Francis. Reassessing Humanae Vitae. Don't know where he's at on that one. Communion for divorced and remarried. They say we don't know where he's at there, but I suspect he's in favor of Mors Laetitia. German Synodal Way. We don't know where he's at on that so far, based on this, at least. I'll do some more research on that, but he has opposed the ordination of women to the diaconate, as Bishop Provos opposed the inclusion of curriculum regarding teaching on genders in schools in Peru, stating that the promotion of gender ideology is confusing because it seeks to create genders that don't exist. So what you'll have from that is, like I said, the liberals won't consider him liberal enough. The trads won't consider him trad enough. Acquaintance of Pope Leo XIV noted that he cares for Venezuelan refugees in Peru. Homosexuality in 2012, Provos lamented that popular culture fostered sympathy for beliefs and practices that are at odds with the gospel, citing the homosexual lifestyle and alternative family compromised of same-sex partners and their adopted children. After Francis's 2020 Fiducia Supplicans allowed priests to bless couples who are not married to each other, he criticized the practicality of the declaration in parts of Africa. So not in the rest of the world, but he says just practically in parts of Africa where homosexuality is still illegal, saying our cultural situation is such that the application of this document is just not going to work. So he's saying in Africa, he was sympathetic to the idea it may not be applied, in the same way there because of some situations with the law, but he doesn't say that for elsewhere. So he seems on board with fiducia in places outside of Africa, if that kind of gives you a feel for where he's at. So more along the lines of Pope Francis, Fernandez, and standard run of the mill stuff. Really is what this looks like. They don't have anything else right now.
One of the things that I certainly have learned more about in the process of the synod is.
Are y'all hearing it this second time around? Are you starting to hear it now?
One of the things that I certainly have learned more about in the process of the synod is the, if you will, wide varieties of understanding the ministry of the bishop, sometimes determined by cultural factors, sometimes determined, of course, by personal issues, the personality, the character of the bishop. But above all, and around or underneath all of that, has to be a foundation of who a bishop is called to be. And as Pope Francis has reminded us many times, a bishop is called to serve. His authority is service. And so to look for different ways in which a bishop can serve in any given society, in any given church, I think is very important. The bishop is not supposed to be a little prince sitting in his kingdom, but rather called authentically to be humble, to be close to the people he serves, to walk with them, to suffer with them, and to look for ways that he can better live the gospel message in the midst of his people.
So getting just a quick read on the cardinal, now Pope. At the time, it looks like he was either a cardinal or a bishop. Simple pectoral cross, but he also came out in a little bit more, a little bit higher attire than Pope Francis, and a little less simple than Pope Francis. So in my impression, just quick first blush, seems somewhere in the middle, right? He doesn't seem overly traditional, doesn't seem overly progressive, doesn't seem really high liturgy, doesn't seem really low liturgy, seems like somewhere in the middle, which might be a step up above where Pope Francis was liturgically. I think kind of Pope Francis was on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to high and low liturgy. So you might see something a little bit more elaborate, but not too elaborate. He might be someone who tolerates the Latin Mass, but isn't a huge fan of it himself. He might be somebody who restricts it further in some cases and relaxes the restrictions in other cases. I think that's probably what you're going to get here. Just a quick read on him. I'm getting an impression of somewhere in the middle. That's the impression I'm getting. Might be a good thing. For some people, that won't be good enough. But some are saying we need someone in the middle. So some are saying we need a return to tradition. So I see y'all there. Some are hoping that he'll remove some of the rainbow lunacy. I don't get the impression that he's gonna that he's gonna push to remove some of that. I also don't get the impression he's gonna promote it either. It seems like he's opposed to it, but might not be big into disciplining them. This says, for whatever it's worth, Leo the 14th called out J.D. Vance on social media just 2 weeks ago, bluntly calling him wrong, and bashed Trump in a retweet less than a month ago. Posting on his X profile, Provos criticized Vance for an interview he gave to Christianity Fox News. J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others. Okay, so that whole deal with J.D. Vance on, so he was critical of him on that. Here it is. Robert Provos, J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love. And so criticized him on the Ordo Amoris thing. So, like I said, opposed to probably the current administration's immigration policies, and is more in line with Pope Francis on immigration. What's his Twitter like? Francis letter, J.D. Vance, Ordo Amoris, and what the gospel asks of us. Okay, so there he talks about that. J.D. Vance is wrong. So he hasn't said a whole lot since February. He does keep a very low profile. Wow. James, my only concern is his alleged mishandling of abuse cases. I think secular media is going to pounce on that. Yeah, I think you're right. They're going to pounce on that. Whether he handled it right or wrong, they're going to pounce on that. All right. So I do see Biden has congratulated the new pope. Also did find a video of the pope when he was it's probably recent. So it looks like he's a cardinal in the video, first blush. Let me find it.
But we, as
it appears he's a cardinal here. Okay. Let me share screen, enable audio, make sure y'all can hear this. See what he says here.
But we as Catholics have always believed, and I firmly believe what Jesus himself said, the Holy Spirit will never abandon the church. Don't doubt that. The Holy Spirit was part, in some way, shape, or form. I wasn't there, but I truly believe that Pope Francis was elected by that College of Cardinals in 2013 because the church at this time needs Francis. At a different time, we needed Pope Benedict, and at a different time, we needed St. John Paul II, et cetera, et cetera. But the Holy Spirit will never abandon the church, and if we can live placing our trust in that, yeah, we might be shaken up a bit. We might need to ask questions, and there's a lot of people we can ask questions to. But we continue to walk, placing our trust and our confidence in the Lord, whose Spirit is indeed with us.
Okay, so that kind of gives you a feel for him. Let me also remind y'all about Catholic Polytechnic University. My course there is right around the corner. So if you go to Catholic Polytechnic University, click on Magisterium Certificates over here, or just catholicpolytechnic.org/magisterium. You can sign up for the Magisterial Studies Certificate program that I've created, starting out with the first course, Introduction to the Magisterium, where we explain what it is, the divine biblical origins of the magisterium, levels to Catholic doctrine, how to evaluate magisterial documents. It starts, however, this Monday, so it's right around the corner. So if you want to join, catholicpolytechnic.org/magisterium, and you'll need to go to over here at the bottom to register, and then you'll also need to also make sure to pay the tuition fee, because that starts Monday. If you cannot attend the classes live, that's fine. They are recorded, so you will be able to watch the videos once you purchase the course and are registered. So if you want to do the classes standalone, you can do it. If you want to do it as part of the 3-course program for the Magisterial Studies Certificate program, you can do that as well. Again, catholicpolytechnic.org/magisterium. So if you want to deepen your understanding of how teaching authority works in the Catholic Church, the papacy, the ecumenical councils, everything, go and check this out. You can also visit rtcourses.com, where I sell some of my courses on the 7 ecumenical councils or the theological notes, dogmas, doctrines, heresies. But right now, in 2 days, I'm going to be delivering 2 lectures on magisterial difficulties. So rtcourses.com, magisterial difficulties, exploring the tensions in the documents of the church. We're going to talk about some of those points of contention and tension, like outside the church there is no salvation, or slavery and stuff like that, how that works in death penalty, how that works in the magisterium, and we're going to explore some of those tensions and possible solutions. And so That's in just a few days. Go and purchase that. If you can't attend it live, that's fine. Once you purchase it, you'll be able to still access it at any time. So maybe go and check that out as well. And of course, consider supporting me at Patreon. That'd be really, really helpful. Become a patron. Patreon.com/Reason and Theology. You get plenty of extra content, exclusive patron only content, and you enabled me to continue to do stuff like this. So if you appreciate the work that I've done, you want to get more content, you need to check me out at Patreon or hit the join button right next to the subscribe button right here on YouTube, and support me there if you don't mind. Or you could check out the PayPal link or the GoFundMe link that I have in the show notes. If you don't prefer Patreon or YouTube, there are those options as well. But I really would appreciate the support. Thank y'all so much for everybody who watched. Thank y'all to all of y'all who gave super chats. Thank you to all of y'all who participated in the comment section. Y'all made this possible. Y'all made this fun. Y'all are the only reason why I was able to go this long for 10 hours here. I've been up since 4:30 in the morning, started 4:44-ish in the morning on the stream. We saw black smoke, been streaming ever since. Made it all the way through because of you guys and you guys only. Y'all were my energy. So thank y'all so much. I appreciate all of y'all tuning in. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share this with your friends on your social media. I'm obviously going to make some highlight clips out of this. I'm going to do more videos talking more about him in more detail. And so much more to come. I'll also be going over various reactions that people have offered beyond what we've covered today. So be looking for that as well. We are at 10 hours and 3, 2, 1, 10 hours, boom, record. I'll probably never beat that 10-hour record right there. This is probably it. I don't think we'll ever go longer than this. I think that's it. That's done. All right. Thank y'all so much. Hit that. Some Eastern Orthodox orthobros are saying that they're calling for a special conclave session. There's ample evidence that the new pope is invalid. Some of the orthobros are saying, probably tongue in cheek. Okay. Let's see. Bishop Barron. See what he has to say. Friends, our Holy New Father is Pope Leo XIV. Born and raised in Chicago, Robert Francis Cardinal Provos entered the novitiate of the Order of St. Augustine in 77 and ordained to the priesthood in 81. The first ever American Pope Provos served most recently as the head of the Church's dicastery for bishops and president of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America. Please join me in praying for Pope Leo. That doesn't give me a good read on where he's at on this one.
Unbelievable news here in Rome. The Pope who has been selected is Robert Prevost. Unbelievable news here in Rome. The Pope who has been selected is Robert Prevost, the former head of the Congregation for Bishops. This is the same guy that got rid of Strickland and that elevated McElroy to Washington, D.C. It sounds like a real nightmare. We're going to be giving you more details at lifesitenews.com. Stay tuned.
Okay, so as I kind of anticipated there, as the first thing I thought to myself was, oh, well, this is the guy that removed. When I thought of LifeSite News, I did think this is the guy that removed, in part, Strickland. So I knew, like, they're not going to be in favor of him, right? That kind of was to be expected. Bishop Strickland says, with the election of His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, the Church enters a new chapter in her pilgrimage throughout history. We entrust the Holy Father to the guidance of the Holy Ghost and the protection of the Blessed Virgin Mary, praying that he may faithfully uphold the deposit of faith and confirm his brethren in the Church. In these difficult times, may all of us clergy and laity alike remain steadfast in our love for Christ, his Church, and sacred traditions handed down through the ages. So far, it appears that he's accepting him as Pope, right? We'll see how long that lasts. Why isn't Marshall pulling up? Hold on. So he did a live stream, but okay. He said Bergoglio was elected on the 5th ballot, but this Pope was elected on 4th ballot. I know he was not happy. He tweeted, "White smoke, we have a Pope," prior to that. So I haven't seen anything else on Twitter other than his live stream, but I haven't watched the live stream. So I don't know what else he's saying. Maybe y'all can tell me in the comment section specifically where he's at on that. I would definitely like to get a read for them, although I kind of, again, suspect they're not happy at all. What did Father James Martin say? I know Leo XIV to be a kind, open, humble, modest, decisive, hardworking, straightforward, trustworthy, and down-to-earth man, a brilliant choice. May God bless him. So yeah, it appears he's very happy with them. So We do need to proceed with caution, right? um, yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what his relationship with Provos will be moving forward. If Provos will have him in the Vatican and write him personal notes like Pope Francis did. One wonders now, is that going to continue now, and will Father James Martin continue to be protected? I suspect yes, because if he was prefect for the dicastery for bishops, he already has a lot of influence on clergy. So I suspect he could do something about his superior um, if there was a real demand for it. So I anticipate nothing's going to happen to Father James Martin because of this pontificate. Like nothing's going to change. He'll still continue to kind of do what he does. Um, So sorry for those of y'all who are kind of hoping for a more disciplinary approach on part of the new pope in matters like that. I don't think you're going to get that. I think you're going to get more standard what we've seen so far, which is a lack of disciplining progressives. Looks like that's going to continue to be the order of the day. Happy to be wrong, though, right? Happy to be wrong. Some people are happy that drip is back on the menu. Wonder how long that will last for them. But yes, that's more of a Pope Benedict style. That's how Pope Benedict came out as opposed to Pope Francis. But again, let's see how long people last in making comments like that.